New videos every day.
Life, wisdom.
Hi, this is Dr. Vincent Bellonzi. And I was just reading a few studies the other day, and I wanted to discuss one that was really interesting. We talk a lot about antidepressants, SSRIs and such, and how it can affect behavior with changes in brain chemistry. And I just wanted to mention a study just to kind of illustrate where this goes or what this can affect. There was a study on minnows because they were looking at all of the drugs that are getting released into our drinking water, both through people taking the drugs and then, through the sewage treatment plants, and then just people flushing their drugs down the toilet. And they're finding significant amounts of drugs in a lot of our water. So the question was posed, well, what happens if we get, say, Prozac in our drinking water? So this study was on Prozac and a minnow that's commonly found in the waterway. And they were studying these minnows because they have a pretty intricate courting routine. Basically, the male builds a nest and then courts the female, and of course, then they get together, and then finally are able to procreate more minnows. So, because it was such an intricate dance that was done between the male and female fish, they wanted to see if there was any effect. So they studied the whole routine without any Prozac, and then they added a little bit of Prozac to the water that the fish were swimming in. And it was interesting that as the Prozac concentration went up slightly, that the male minnow, instead of being interested in the female, started getting more invested in nesting and almost ignoring the female, even though normally would have been very interested in finding a female and in a sense building a family. So that was a very interesting finding, this change in behavior, that the male would be so busy with the nest and completely change his behavior. And then they added a little bit more Prozac. With a higher concentration, the male minnow became even more invested in nesting and was even somewhat aggressive toward the female, in a sense chasing her off, not even interested in engaging in having babies or anything, basically showing some aggression, not necessarily going after the fish, but wouldn't let her approach. And then they increased the amount of Prozac even a little bit more. And the minnow then became very aggressive toward the female, having no interest in courting the female, but actually attacking her and chasing her off, even in some cases doing harm to her. It was all this was in the research as they saw this progression. And then eventually they brought the Prozac high enough that the male minnow actually became, I don't want to say suicidal. I mean, we can't apply thoughts like that to a fish necessarily, but the fish began to do things to hurt itself as if it was a human being. I'm not saying minnows are the same as humans, but the fact that this Prozac concentration could make extreme changes in the behavior of this fish, you would think that the behavior was innate, something the fish was going to do no matter what. But Prozac really did change behavior in the fish. So if we can relate that at all to human beings, and we talk about the fact that there has been noted aggressive behavior, suicidal behavior from the use of these things, we tend to assume that we can just take a pill and have no adverse effects. We're just going to get the mood elevation we're looking for. Maybe we can become a little bit more, have a little bit more manageable lifestyle because we've got this drug allowing us not to be in depression or whatever. But we've got to consider all the ramifications. And it's too easy to just go get a pill and take it. Sometimes depression is something that you're supposed to go through. It is a legitimate emotion. And to think that every time you've got an emotion you don't want to deal with, you can go take a pill is a real mistake. But again, consider the changes in the behavior of that fish and then what they're tracking similarly in human beings. And it's something to think about. We want to use things if we need them. We want to use them appropriately. But no drug is really studied for long-term use. And you don't want to necessarily depend on medication for the rest of your life. If you need something like a mood elevator for a short period of time to get through something, fine. But realize that there's a dependence created and it is going to affect your behavior. If you don't believe it, ask people around you when you're on one. So this is Dr. Vincent Bellonzi. Just wanted to give you something to think about. Tune in again and listen to us. So if you want more information, pick up my book. There's a lot of things in the book that I go over in more detail, and if you have questions, this can answer it. You can pick up my book on my website, www.recklesshealth.com, or you can pick it up on Amazon or any of the major retailers. Please like the video, and subscribe to our channel. And there will be more videos. We'll talk about different subjects. Join me again. Thanks.